The third theory, the first was behaviorist, the second was nativist, Skinner, Chomsky. The third gentleman was Lev Vygotsky, and his theory has a profound influence on the field of speech-language pathology, clinical psychology, and many other behavioral sciences. What was great about him? Vygotsky's theory of social development, or the socio-cultural theory, he said that learning happens in the environment, in the presence of a person who is known as a more knowledgeable adult, and in a zone of proximal development. Which means, to learn out language, if you relate Vygotsky's theory to language development, to learn language, you require first a more knowledgeable adult or a person who knows the language. The child cannot learn language from TV, radio, written script, etc. No, cannot. A more knowledgeable adult is required. The second thing is that the child acquires language developmentally, that is step by step, one after another. And the first step is a bit what he knows. And the first step prepares him for the second step, that is reaching towards something which is not known, but between the first step and the second step is a zone which is known as the zone of proximal development. That is, in this particular zone, if a more knowledgeable adult supports the child or scaffolds the child tends to pick up that particular skill, may it be language. मतलब क्या है? मतलब यह है कि बच्चा समझ ले एक शब्द बोल पा रहा है, लेकिन 2 से 3 शब्दों का जोड़ नहीं बोल पा रहा है, कभी कभी 2 शब्द बोल लेता है. अगर बच्चे को आसानी से पहले स्टेप से तीसरे स्टेप में पहुंचना है या दूसरे स्टेप में पहुंचना है, तो एक ऐसा बड़ा व्यक्ति चाहिए, ऐसा एक जानकार आदमी चाहिए जो कि बच्चे को मदद करेगा अलग अलग तरह के स्कैफोल्डिंग या मदद से पहुंचाने के द्वारा, ताकि बच्चा तीसरे या फ्रेज लेवल में पहुंच जाए. ये है जोन ऑफ प्रॉक्सिमल डेवलपमेंट और ये है काम मोर नॉलेजेबल अडल्ट का. तो if we try depicting out the entire phenomenon in form of this pie chart, then the center part is the learner can do something independently. The next light green part is the zone of proximal development, and the lightest part is the learner can't do it at all. The role of the more knowledgeable adult is, more knowledgeable adult may be a friend, maybe the parent, maybe the speech therapist, maybe anybody who is helping out the child learn things which he cannot do alone at all, and he can act out most efficiently in this particular zone known as the zone of proximal development. या इसको अगर इस तरह से भी आप समझने की कोशिश करें तो मान लीजिए ये अलमारा है और ये उसके ऊपर कुछ रखा हुआ है. इस अलमारा के ऊपर मान लीजिए ये क्लिप रखा हुआ है. यहाँ एक बच्चा अपनी पूरी ताकत लगाता है, हाथ यहाँ तक पहुंचा पाता है, पर अगर वो अपने पैरों को ऊंचा कर ले यूं तो उसका हाथ यहाँ तक पहुंच सकता है, पर वो पैरों को ऊंचा कर सके उसके पास उतनी ताकत नहीं है. तो एक मोर नॉलेजेबल एडल्ट क्या करता है कि उसे उसके बगल से सहयोग करता है या हाथ उसके कंधों को पकड़ लेता है थोड़ा, ताकि वो अपने दोनों टखनों को सीधा ऊपर कर सके और सामान नीचे ला सके. तो इस तरह से अगर कोई मोर नॉलेजेबल एडल्ट मदद करता है तो वो बच्चा जो खुद अपने बूते पर अलमारा के ऊपर रखा हुआ ये चीज नहीं उतार पा रहा था, उतार कर ला सकता है. और इसी मदद को स्कैफोल्डिंग बोलते हैं. और स्कैफोल्डिंग इज द टेम्पररी सपोर्ट दैट मेक्स कंटेंट मोर एक्सेसिबल फॉर बिगिनिंग लैंग्वेज लर्नर्स. Lev Vygotsky called this particular area the zone of proximal development. As the student becomes more competent, the support is gradually removed until the student is able to perform the task without assistance. So scaffolding can be of multiple types. You all know about the VAKT principle. V means visually we can show the child. A means auditorily we can make the child hear it. K means kinesthetically, we can make the child touch it, and T is tactually, we can make the child feel it. For example, the child cannot say the name of a fruit, let's say mango. And how do you do it visually? We can show a flashcard giving him a clue. I want you to name this. Confrontation naming बोलते हैं ना उसको. The second thing, auditorily, you can give phonetic cues, you can give phonological cues. For example, the word starts with M, or the word starts with mang. That's a syllabic cue. Or you can just do a auditory closure activity. Okay, the name of the fruit is mango. And the child picks it up. That's an auditory cue. You can give a kinesthetic cue in which you can close his eyes and ask the child to hold the fruit like this and say, okay, what's it? You can give a tactile cue by making the child feel the mango on his hand somewhere and ask, what's it? You can give a clue through smell as well. You can ask the child to smell it out. Rest all senses blinded. So these are different scaffolding strategies which can be used out to elicit the response of the word, and that's the technique is known as VAKT method. So thus a more knowledgeable adult uses various techniques. Some of these techniques are chaining, shaping, fading to help a child learn out skills which he could not do without support. Based upon this zone of proximal development, we plan short-term and long-term goal of language therapy. The entire therapy plan is based upon Vygotsky's guiding principle, in which we plan out our short-term and long-term goal. One example here. This is a 2.5-year-old child. Now, the child naturally comes to a speech language pathologist when the child is not speaking age appropriate. By 2.5-year-old, a girl child would be coming up with sentences. Okay, beyond phrases, sentences. Small sentences the child would be using out multiple number of words. But this particular child which is being showed here is speaking out how? He's not at all speaking out. She is just using some laugh and non-speech sound like ooh, something like this. Or she's just smiling at things or crying at things. She's using some gestures along with it, like looking at the object which she requires, looking at the object which she requires, reaching the object, pushing things which she doesn't want. So this is what she is using out. That means, although physically she is 2.5-year-old, she is still using language, expressive language, which is equivalent to a 8 to 12-month-old child. That means there is a straight cut delay of 1.5 years. So what do we do? When you come to a speech language pathologist, if he is grading out the activities or the targets properly, he would see what is the zone of proximal development. That is, how much the child can do without support. The next level would usually be the level where the child can do a few things. For example, I told here the child is using out some non-speech sounds, like if the child is hurt, the child says ooh. If the dog is there, the child says bo 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 bo, something like that. That particular skills form, that particular skill comes under the capacity of 12 to 18 month old, which is one step ahead. So the speech therapist would be identifying out 12 to 18 month as the target or the zone of proximal development in which he or she would be planning out the short-term goals. So if a child comes to a speech therapist with a language age of 8 to 12 months, he would target out the next level where the child has acquired some skills and plan out all the short-term goals in that particular range. So if I show this on a language developmental chart, the baseline would be 8 to 12 months here. The short-term goals are planned across 12 to 18 months. and the long-term goal is 8 to 20 months. So 3 short-term goals in the zone of proximal development, which is 12 to 18 months. Thus, we plan the short-term goals in the zone of proximal development and use scaffolding techniques for therapy, and this is done by a more knowledgeable adult. Often a speech therapist breaks up this, teaches the same to the parent, and the parent is expected to implement this with the child at home. That's what is done in speech language therapy, and if it is done in this particular way, by identifying out the zone of proximal development, then naturally the speech therapy would be very structured and scientific and would be outcome based speech language therapy. So here are a few differences between speech therapy and traditional teaching. In speech therapy, both the therapist and the child play communication partners. It's a two-way method. In traditional teaching, the teacher teaches and the child learns. It's a one-way. The second point would be the child leads or child selects the activity. But in traditional teaching, the teacher has already fixed out the goals. In speech therapy, the speech therapy has to be very pleasurable. Teaching may or may not be. Speech therapy is often semi-structured. Teaching is highly structured. In speech therapy, only reinforcements are used. Some timeouts may be used. But in traditional teaching, spare the cane and spoil the child. Punishments may be used as well. Although it's not permitted legally. The sixth point is speech therapy is always centered on activities of daily living. So a milieu therapy often happens out where the child is there in the daily living activity environment. But in traditional therapy, it is always centered on school curriculum and on the syllabus. The seventh point, the best speech therapy activities can be performed in real life situations by caregiver and parents. Traditional teaching must happen at school. The eighth point is it is incidental or happens in real time. That is, I'll be talking about the things which are happening in speech therapy. But in school, we talk about concepts which are not in the present context. The child might not have seen them. Like I was teaching my child about Antarctica and the latitudes and the longitudes, standard 4 child. In his entire life, he may not be visiting out Antarctica, neither can conceptualize out what is a latitude or a longitude, but he has to be taught that. That doesn't happen in speech therapy, it has to be real time. In speech therapy, the therapist ensures that the child understands at least in part what is being communicated. In traditional teaching, it is not necessary a parameter to be followed for teaching to continue. The 10th point is the therapist ensures that the child is given adequate time and means. That is, we always ensure out multiple methods of teaching, multiple methods of eliciting out a response, and multiple methods of evaluation. And that's one of the principles of inclusion, right? So, the child in traditional teaching is expected to respond quickly, clearly in a defined pattern. You must see those online classes, Unacademy, Byju's, which are happening out. They will call for a quiz. The child has to respond, and the child has to respond within fraction of seconds, and first, second, third, first, second, third, first, second, third. In speech language therapy or any therapy, there is no first, second, third. Pleasure is the only target by the virtue of which the child learns. Thus, speech language therapy is not babysitting. It is, without saying, it is outcome oriented, and there is a subtle science behind the art of speech language therapy. It may appear as play, but there is a method behind the play. Thank you for your kind attention. I hope I clarified my I hope I did my presentation and you understood it.